Hi, this is Devin Dombrowski, and in this video tutorial I'm going to explain how to manage your rescuers in Wildlife Rehabilitation MD. So why would you need to know how to manage your rescuers? Well, very briefly, every record in Wildlife Rehabilitation MD has its medical information, which may include initial care or continued care, or any medical information for any extensions that you have installed. But it also includes the rescuer's information. The rescuer's information is kept separate from the medical information. And to illustrate that, I've made a quick picture for you. So all of the case data is stored in this case table, and that one case has a rescuer associated to it. And this is often the relationship between a rescuer and a case for nearly all of the animals in the database. However, of course, when you create a new record, that rescuer may bring in more than one animal at a time. In that situation, the one rescuer is created in the database, and the 3 cases would be created, and each of them associated back to that one rescuer. So to briefly demonstrate this, we'll go back to Wormed. If I clicked on New Record, ordinarily I would fill out the species information, and select how many patients, fill in the rescuer's contact information, indicate whether or not they're a member, a volunteer, whether they made a donation, or if they don't want to be solicited. Fill in the basic intake information. And then create the records. Now in that example, we created 3 house finches. So if I went to List Records, these last 3 house finches are those. And I can page through their medical records, but each of them is associated back to that one original rescuer. So if I went to Rescuer, you can see the rescuer's contact information that we had filled in. And if we scroll down, under cases brought in by this rescuer, the database knows that these 3 house finches belong to this one rescuer, which is exactly the same relationship that I illustrated here. And it doesn't matter if it was 1, 2, 3, or 100 cases, it would still be this same information. So that means that if I come in and make a change to this rescuer's contact information, maybe we got an alternate phone number for this person, and I click Update, that updates that rescuer. Doesn't matter which case number I'm on for this rescuer. In this case I'm on number 19, but if I went to any of these other ones, it's still the same rescuer, and you can see that it's been updated on that one rescuer, no matter which case number I'm on, as long as it belongs to this one rescuer. So now that scenario of creating a new record with one or multiple cases is pretty straightforward and ordinary. But what happens if Sam Smith comes back a day later, or a week later, or years later, and brings in another animal? Wouldn't it be nice to then reuse Sam Smith when creating the new record, instead of having to rewrite him in the database? Well, we can reuse him now. If I go to New Record, and for the sake of this tutorial, we'll just pretend this is days later. We'll enter in the species that Sam is brought in this time. Number of patients, we'll leave it as 1. And now, instead of filling in Sam Smith's contact information here, I click on this tab that says Use Existing Rescuer, where I'm brought to a screen where I can search out rescuers. So I know that this person's name was Sam Smith, so I can start typing in Sam, and the database quickly searches all of the rescuers associated with my account and generates a list of potential matches. So straight away I can see that this particular Sam Smith is the one that we had previously entered. So I could click on Select, and from this point I can fill in the intake information. If the address and city and state found were the same as Sam Smith's personal address, I can click that and it'll drop that information in. I'll say create this record. And now if I go to list records, I click on this raccoon, and I'll go to this raccoon's rescuer. You can see that here is Sam Smith, the same Sam Smith that we used prior. And if I scroll down, here are the 3 house finches that he brought in previously, and now the most recent raccoon. So the database is keeping a record of what animals Sam Smith has brought in. There's a few other things I want to illustrate while using an existing rescuer. You can use any of these fields to help search out a rescuer in your database. You can search by a person by their phone number, or you can type in a city that they may are from, or if you wanted to use an address, you can do that as well. Whatever works. And as you type, the database will repopulate the list of potential matches. When you've narrowed it down as close as you can scroll through this list and look at the different rescuers in here and select the one that matches best for you. Now you may notice in this list, here's a Jeffrey Smith, and here's another Jeffrey Smith. Here's a Rachel Avila, and here's another Rachel Avila, and a Sam Smith, and another Sam Smith. Why are these people showing up more than once? Well, the truth is, at this moment, the database believes that there is more than one Jeffrey Smith, more than one Rachel Avila, and more than one Sam Smith. So how can we correct that? What can we do to match up these same rescuers? Well, there's a new feature in Worms that allows you to reconcile your rescuers and match up rescuers in the database into one rescuer for all the animals that that person has brought in. What do I mean? Well, let's go back to pictures to help illustrate this. Here's an example where a rescuer has brought in 3 cases, and here's a picture where the same rescuer has brought in a few other cases. The problem is Wildlife Rehabilitation MD does not know that this rescuer is the same as this rescuer. It wasn't created in the database being reused. Whoever created the records just typed in the information again. What we want to do is tell Wormed that these are in fact the same rescuers. So what we can get is this. How do we do that? Well, let me show you. If you're a super administrator, you go up to the top, click on your email address, and click on Settings. And on the left, you'll find a new link called Reconcile Rescuers. Reconciling your rescuers is a 3-step process. And it's very important that you understand each step and what's happening in it before you make any changes. For clear instructions, please make sure to read the text on the right on all pages. This first step is about matching up your rescuers. Wildlife Rehabilitation MD has already started by trying to match up rescuers in the database based off of commonalities. For example, it's matched by organization, it's matching rescuers by their phone number, and also matching rescuers by their name. So Rachel Avila, for example, if I clicked on See Matches, the database has found 4 Rachel Avilas in here, and it believes that all 4 of these Rachel Avilas are the same. So Wormed wants us to combine these Rachel Avilas into one. Now you can see one of the Rachel Avilas is from the 2011 year, and the others are from 2012. So it's searching our rescuers across all the years in the database. A good example that I have set up is for this Jeff Smith character. If I clicked on See Matches, there are 3 cases in the database, each of which has a rescuer with a first name of Jeff Smith. So the database now thinks that these 3 cases brought by Jeff Smith are in fact the same Jeff Smith. So what we can do is select the cases, or if we wanted we could have selected Toggle All, to combine the Jeffs into one. Now it's important to note, no changes will be made to your records until we get to the very end of step 3. So it's safe to click on Combine the Jeffs or Combine the Rescuers. So now we're brought to step number 2. Step 2 is about matching up the fields from the rescuers that we've just selected and identifying the correct values in them. So we have each Jeff Smith listed here. Here's the first one, the second one, and the third one. And what we need to do is tell Wildlife Rehabilitation MD which Jeff Smith's values are the correct values that we want to keep. And we tell it by checking in the boxes and highlighting it in green. The database has gone ahead and already guessed intelligently which fields it believes are the correct ones by highlighting those in green. And we can see that it believes that the organization right here is correct because in all 3 of these Jeff Smiths, the organization field is empty, so it must be true. The first and last name of Jeff Smith has been already pre-selected because the first and last name in all 3 of these Jeff Smiths are the same, so it believes that that's correct. The email address in this Jeff Smith has been pre-selected because the email address in these are empty, so it believes that this one here must be the most correct. There are other fields in here that are not pre-selected, so we need to go and figure out why they aren't to move forward. Well, the reason the phone number didn't get selected is because this phone number here is different than this phone number here, which is also different from this phone number here. However, you'll notice that this phone number and that phone number are the same. So this is where human intelligence has to come into play, and we have to decide which phone number is correct. Well, possibly they're both correct. So what we can do is select this one, highlight the data in there, and move it to the other field. And now we go to this rescuer and select that one. So what we're saying is, yes, this phone number is correct, but we copied this phone number into the alternate phone number field. That way we won't lose that data when we combine the Jeff Smith together at a final step. Next we'll go to the address. This is 2050 Monument Street, 2050 Monument Street, and 2050 Monument Street. Well, they're all the same street and same address, except Worm doesn't know that, only because this street was not spelled out completely. So we'll just select this field as the correct one. Next, for the city, Concord, and Concord. Well, when this Jeff was created, there was a simple spelling error. So we know Concord is correct, so we'll select that. And the postal code. This postal code is different from this one down here and this one here. Now I just happen to know that the correct postal code for Concord is 94521. So whoever put 94598 on this rescuer made a mistake. So I'll select that postal code from this Jeff Smith. And at this point, we're pretty much done. We've selected all the fields on a rescuer, so we can move on to the next step. One important thing to note is that if there was any information in these rescuer fields that I wanted to save, for example, any notes, and those notes didn't 100% belong to that rescuer and had some notes that related to an actual case that this rescuer has brought in, it's important to go to that rescuer's page and move those notes out of the rescuer contact information and into the actual case, because we're trying to get away from the idea that one rescuer belongs to one case. The truth is that one rescuer may belong to hundreds of cases, so information that is specific to a case really never belongs in the rescuer's contact information. So once we've decided that all the selected values on this screen are correct in the way we want them to be, and of course we could select any of these checkboxes here, we click Review the New Rescuer, or in this case Jeff Smith. And here we are brought to the third and final step. Basically, on this step, all we just need to do is review what we've already done. And we can see that all the values for the fields that we selected have been populated into the fields on this screen. And to me it looks good, it looks accurate, so I'm ready to commit the changes. Now what does that mean, to commit the changes? Well, as it's listed over here, when I click on Commit the Changes, a new rescuer will be created with these values here. The older rescuers that I chose will be deleted, and all of the cases that were associated with those older rescuers, those older Jeff Smiths, will be reassigned to this one Jeff Smith. So if I click Commit the Changes, the rescuer is successfully reconciled. And now let's go and find that Jeff Smith to really see that. If I go to full search, I typed in Jeff Smith, it goes out and found, in this case, 3 cases, which isn't surprising. If I go to the first one and then clicked on Rescuer, look here, it's the same Jeff Smith contact information that we typed in before. And if I scroll down, now all 3 of those cases are related to this one Jeff Smith. Now this was a fairly straightforward example, but it can get a lot more complicated. So when you're reconciling your rescuers, you really should spend a lot of time reviewing the data within each rescuer before you get fully committed into it. For example, if I went to Rachel Avila, you can see that 4 cases have been pre-identified. And I'll click Toggle All and Combine. Now this is all completely fake and erroneous data, but you can see that a lot of it doesn't match up. And this is a possible situation that you may encounter. So what you should do is keep some notes about which information here is correct. You can go directly back to that rescuer and update its information on its screen before you go ahead and do any reconciling. And basically clean up your data before you follow through on the reconcile process. Another possibility is if you know that the rescuer is the same, but for some reason it's not being pre-matched up in here. Well, in that case, you can type in case numbers to select the rescuers from those cases. So for example, if I wanted case number 2 and number 5, and I can type in a year as well, so 2012-10, and say combine the rescuers, the database will go to each one of those cases, select its information, and we proceed as normal. Now I randomly selected cases which don't apparently have any matches or any commonalities, so this was not the best example, but you can see that if you if you knew that these 3 cases were the same rescuer, you can pre-select them. And basically that's all there is to managing your rescuers. The big idea behind keeping your rescuers organized is more than just good record keeping. It helps you to identify which rescuers are bringing in multiple animals at once, or over how long they're bringing them in. You can also start to keep better contact information for your rescuers so that in the future you can contact them to solicit them for donations or support for your organization, as well as maintaining a simple but useful constituent database. I hope this tutorial was helpful. If you have any questions, then please go to the top of the screen and click on Send Feedback and let us know what you think. And I hope you have a good day.